Hello, this is a mid-large size painting that I'm working on. It's about 20 inches wide, and I'm going to be showing you a time lapse of a small portion of it, mainly this phoenix bird here in the center, the focus of the piece. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how I go about a process like this, because frequently when I'm doing videos that are more instructional in nature, there's a little bit of artificiality in the way that a piece is broken down, because in order to have the techniques make sense, I have to really simplify things, and I have to really lump the process of how I create certain effects into a more condensed format, into a way that makes sense, because if I get too chaotic about going back and forth here and there, then it gets really confusing to someone who's just trying to figure out the basic technique of what's going on. And so while it is the way I work, it is also in a way very contrived when you see instructional videos. And I want to show you a little bit more about how I work more naturally. So in this time lapse, you're going to see me paint the phoenix here, but there's a lot of back and forth that happens. It's not just simply, hey, I'm going to start with the glaze and then I'm going to go to the details and then I'm going to build up the shadows and then I'm going to do highlights. It's not quite so simplified as that. It's a lot of back and forth, and it's layers and layers and layers. It's just lots of layers on top of each other that just keep building up the intensity of color and the complexity of shades that go into any one feather here, so that you get this beautiful transition of greenish blues into yellows and oranges and the purples as well. But to achieve that, it really is the product of a lot of layering and a lot of back and forth. I don't just do it once or twice. I really do it, like 5 or 10 times even. And so the phoenix here, which you can see is pretty small. It's maybe 3 inches by 3 inches across, 3 by 3 inches. It's actually a small portion of this painting, but it took me about 2 hours to paint it. And you will see that over the course of this time lapse that I'm about to show you. I do generally begin with a light wash of my overall color tone for each area. That's usually how I start off pretty much everything that I paint. I have a diluted basic tone that I want underlying the colors that I will be painting on top. And I don't want to make this too dark because I do want to leave room for retaining the light tones showing through. I just don't want the lights to usually be the absolute white of the paper unless it is actually going to be white. And then once I get those basic tones in, then I start doing the shading and doing glazes of other colors. And these are going to be colors that are for the actual object itself. So in this case, the color of the wing, or else it might be reflected colors that are coming in from the surrounding areas and the background and the other objects and other things around it. And this then serves to anchor the color tones of the object I'm painting within its environment. Because if you just paint without any of these outside colors coming into your piece, then it ends up looking like it's just kind of pasted there in the middle of whatever environment you've created rather than being an integrated part of it. Zoomed in a little bit over here so you can see more of the detail work that I am doing. A large part of this, because this is this very small piece. Well, I mean, small portion of the overall painting. As I said, it's only about a 3-inch square area. I'm working primarily with a size 0 brush and doing a lot of dry brushing. So it's a lot of these tiny little details. And I go back and forth between dry brushing and then doing light glazes of either just pure water or else a very, very dilute color glaze. And I do these glazes sometimes in the color of the object itself, and sometimes it's going to be in the reflected colors, and sometimes it's going to be in shadow tones. And I don't cover the entire area either with these washes. I do them in these sort of localized specific areas. And this then allows for a richness of the layers as they sort of overlap in areas, in some areas, but not in others, and even allow for the base layers to show through without any sort of wash on top at all. So this then creates a complexity to your textures and to your tones and to the layers of color that are going to be showing through, because in some places you're going to have these blues showing through, and in other places I'm going to have only the oranges, and in other places it's going to be this combined layered effect of all of these built up over a course of many, many layers, not just one or two or even three, but more like 5 or 10, as I said before. And so this is something I wanted to show you this in this format, because it's not something that really comes through sometimes when you are watching just a straight up tutorial type of video, because while that isolates the techniques and shows you how it's done, it doesn't really show you how it's done in practice and how it is actually applied into a painting. Where in a technique video, I'm going to show it to you one time. In actual practice, I'm doing it over and over and over again. And it becomes a small portion of the overall technique. The overall technique is much more of a larger puzzle where you keep applying these micro little bits of process over and over in certain areas, and varying them in slight ways, varying them in tone, varying them in location, and just having that all combined into a more integrated, larger picture.